Competition Commission proposes criminalizing competition ordinance offences. Stormy weekend to follow hot days. And China urges Britain to provide fair business environment for Chinese firms. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The Competition Commission proposes criminalizing competition ordinance offences with a maximum prison sentence of at least 7 years and a minimum fine of $5 million. The body hopes the proposal could be scrutinized by the Legislative Council during the first quarter of next year. Timothy Lee reports.
The Competition Commission earlier submitted a report to the Independent Committee in relation to the Wangfu Court fire on the issue of bid rigging surrounding the housing estate's renovation works. This as the competition watchdog explained the details of the report to the public for the first time today. They noted at least 7 anti-competitive actions over the course of the renovation works at Wangfu Court, including price fixing as well as phantom bidding. The competition watchdog proposed criminalizing offences of the competition ordinance in the future. Under the measure, offenders involved in cases with sufficient evidence and pertains to the well-being of the public will face charges, while others will face civil action. Competition Commission Chairman Jia Xiutong said the proposal will be submitted to the government in September, adding that there are still considerations regarding the maximum punishment for offences. Jia suggested a maximum sentence of between 7 to 10 years, in addition to a fine ranging from $5 to $15 million, stressing that it must have a deterrence effect. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The very hot weather warning is currently in effect. Several areas in the city recorded temperatures reaching 33 degrees Celsius or above this afternoon. The observatory indicated the tropical cyclone that developed in waters east of the Philippines is set to enter within 800 kilometers of Hong Kong tomorrow, at which point authorities may issue the standby signal number 1. Timothy Lee again.
Hong Kong has been baking under the sun since the very hot weather warning was issued this morning. In Tsim Sha Tsui, residents and tourists alike braved the blistering weather conditions in outdoor areas, largely with the help of conveniently placed ice cream trucks. A number of regions around the city recorded temperatures surpassing 33 degrees Celsius throughout the day, with Shangshui recording the highest temperature of 35.3 degrees. This as a couple of people who enjoyed their time outside today shared their thoughts on the weather conditions.
It's definitely really hot. I'm like sweating.
I think I've gotten a bit of a heat stroke, but I'm pretty fine right now.
I mean, yeah, the whole world is getting hot because it's also the heat of the city itself.
It's a really nice weather. We've been through a few weeks with heavy rainstorm, thunderstorm, and sometimes the black warning. So sun and hot weather is something that we appreciate.
Tourists were undeterred by the intense heat here at the Central Ferry Piers this afternoon, with many of them eagerly waiting in line to board the Hong Kong observation wheel or to get some snacks to cool down. Several joggers in the area said they're enjoying the weather, adding that it won't put a stop to their daily exercise. Weather authorities noted a tropical cyclone that developed in waters east of the Philippines will pass by the Luzon Strait later on Friday, before entering 800 kilometers of Hong Kong, at which point the observatory may issue the standby signal number 1. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
A pedestrian was robbed by 2 young men riding e-scooters in Pak Shek Kok in Tai Po, marking the second consecutive day of street crime involving teenagers. The incident occurred at around midnight when a 52-year-old man and his 20-year-old female friend were cycling near a public toilet. Police say the woman was approached by 2 young men. When the male victim confronted them, an argument ensued. He was allegedly assaulted, sustaining facial injuries and abrasions to his ribs. The 2 suspects fled the scene after snatching one of the victim's bag. The robbery follows another youth-related street crime in recent days. 4 boys aged 12 to 14 were arrested after allegedly throwing wet tissues at passers-by in Chun Wan Park. The Transport Department has approved fully driverless autonomous vehicle trials on Airport Island today. It is the first time test vehicles are allowed to operate without an in-vehicle backup operator. The Airport Island pilot project has been up and running for over 18 months. The renewed license for Baidu's Apollo Go service covers Airport Island and North Lantau. So far, the department has issued 8 pilot licenses for the entire city. Transport officials say safety is the government's top consideration.
There will still be remote backup operators in a remote control center monitoring the trials of individual autonomous vehicles. And as to when the service area will be expanded for these trials, it very much depends on the operators' wishes and their business plans.
China and the Philippines have clashed once again in the South China Sea. Manila claims Chinese vessels fired water cannons at Philippine government ships near Huangyandao. Beijing counters that the Philippine vessels illegally intruded into Chinese waters, prompting lawful and professional response measures to drive them away. The Philippine Coast Guard released footage showing 2 vessels from the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources on a mission early Thursday morning. Manila said while providing fuel supplies and safety support to local fishermen, the vessels were targeted by a Chinese Coast Guard ship firing water cannons and carried out a dangerous maneuver. The spokesperson for the China Coast Guard responded that the 2 Philippine vessels insisted on intruding into waters near Huangyandao despite repeated warnings. China said it took necessary legal measures to force them away, adding that operations on scene were professional, standard, and entirely lawful. This latest incident follows another clash between China and the Philippines in the South China Sea. Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with Philippine Foreign Secretary Teresa Lazaro in Manila on Wednesday. Wang launched a strong protest over what he described as reckless behavior by Philippine personnel in ramming Chinese law enforcement vessels. Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with newly appointed British Foreign Secretary Ed Miliband on the sidelines of the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting in the Philippines. As the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting is held in Manila, Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with his newly minted British counterpart Ed Miliband at the hotel where he's staying. Apart from calling on the UK to uphold the One China principle, Wang also commented on the UK's previous administration's move to nationalize British steel, which is under Chinese company Jinye Steel. He says China and Britain should work together to transcend differences and jointly uphold multilateralism, urging the UK to offer a fairer and non-discriminatory business environment to Chinese enterprises in their country. He said he looked forward to maintaining close communication with Miliband to strengthen political mutual trust and jointly address global challenges.
I look forward to continuing this substantive dialogue with you.
Wang also met Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulhadi. The pair have remained in close contact over the conflict involving the United States and Iran. Japanese media reported that Japanese Foreign Minister Toshimitsu Motegi revealed he had a brief exchange with Wang Yi the day before, and they discussed bilateral relations. Motegi says maintaining dialogue with China is extremely important, without disclosing further details. While this could mark the 2 countries' first high-level contact since bilateral relations deteriorated late last year. In Beijing, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson says Wang did not arrange a meeting with Japanese representatives in Manila.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Separately, Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Hua Chunying represented China at the ASEAN Plus 3 Foreign Ministers meeting, attended by foreign ministers from ASEAN, China, Japan, and South Korea. Hua says China places great importance on fostering good neighborly relations with surrounding countries and remains committed to promoting East Asian cooperation.
105年来
Hua says countries in the region should draw profound lessons from history, uphold independence, openness, and inclusiveness, and do more to contribute to regional peace and stability. She says the world had entered a new period of turbulence and transformation, with the conflict in the Middle East disrupting global energy and food supply chains, making regional cooperation more urgent than ever. And still ahead, U.S. and Iran strikes continue while Houthis hit ships. OpenAI's agent goes rogue and hacks startup by itself. Former politician enters UK after border detentions. Welcome back. The U.S. military conducts its 12th night of strikes against Iran. This as U.S. President Donald Trump says Iran will soon be ready to make a peace deal. But Tehran says if Iran's security is not ensured, the Strait of Hormuz will not be safe. Danny Rao tells us more.
U.S. Central Command says the attacks were designed to further degrade Iran's ability to threaten civilian mariners and commercial vessels transiting regional waters. The strikes come after U.S. President Donald Trump threatens to destroy Iran's bridges and power plants if Iran attacks any ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Trump says that from this point forward, any time Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by missile, rocket, drone or any other device or weapon, the US will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in Tehran. Speaking in Marietta, Georgia, shortly after attending the dignified transfer of 4 US service members killed in action in the Middle East, Trump says Iran will soon be ready to make a peace deal.
This is with this skirmish we have with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I call it that because, let me tell you, they're getting hit so hard and they want to make a deal. But I say they're not ready to make a deal because every time they make a deal, they want to change it and everything. They're not ready. They'll be ready very soon.
Iran's Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Khalibaf, who's led negotiations with the US, responds to Trump. He says if Iran's security is not ensured, no infrastructure will be safe and the situation of the strait will not return to pre-war conditions. Meanwhile, Yemen's Houthi rebels claim to have targeted 2 Saudi oil tankers at the southern end of the Red Sea, following through on a threat with the potential to widen the Iran war. Military spokesperson Yahya Saree says the 2 vessels had violated a blockade decision issued by the Houthis earlier this week. The rebels say they have closed the Bab al-Mandeb Strait to Saudi-linked shipping in retaliation for the kingdom's blockade on Yemen and a recent attack on the international airport in Yemen's rebel-held capital Sana'a. Bab al-Mandeb at the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula is a vital shipping choke point connecting the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. Danarel, TV News.
The United States and Saudi Arabia have reached a landmark agreement on civil nuclear power, the U.S. Energy Department said on Wednesday. The deal allows the kingdom to build nuclear reactors using American technology to enrich uranium, and an expert is expressing his concerns.
The big picture and the long-term picture is that the United States is currently fighting a war. One of the reasons that started the war is that just across the Gulf, Iran has insisted on their right to enrich uranium. So I suppose there's a bit of an inconsistency in the U.S. approach to being willing to fight a war over the point of uranium enrichment on one side, and on the other side, being willing, at least in theory, to hand over that technology if it deems it appropriate in the course of implementing this deal.
The deal is expected to last 30 years and is expected to involve U.S. firms in developing the program. But the deal could face headwinds among lawmakers when it is submitted to Congress, who fear that by helping the Saudis fulfill their long-standing desire to enrich their own uranium, it would open new rounds of nuclear proliferation and competition. Top Trump administration tech official Michael Kratsios claimed China's moonshot AI stole from Anthropic's most sophisticated AI large language model Fable to help create its latest K3 release and has acquired advanced NVIDIA AI chips. Kratsios said large-scale, covert industrial distillation aimed at stealing proprietary U.S. technology and undermining American research is unacceptable. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said on Wednesday in a post on X that he was considering adding moonshot AI to a trade blacklist and imposing sanctions. Spokesperson Liu Chang of the Chinese embassy in Washington called Kratsios' comments entirely unfounded, adding that China respects intellectual property protections. Relevant individuals in the United States should respect the facts, discard prejudice, and stop smearing and discrediting China's achievements in the development of its artificial intelligence industry, he said. OpenAI said that its AI systems recently went rogue, breaking out of a testing environment and autonomously hacking into another AI company. The ChatGPT maker is calling this an unprecedented cyber incident that targeted AI startup Hugging Face. Tracy Furness has more.
OpenAI said Tuesday 2 of its most capable AI models were responsible for the cyber attack targeting AI startup Hugging Face. The company said it was testing a combination of AI models, including its latest version of GPT 5.6 Sol and an even more capable model that is still being tested. The models were being evaluated for their ability to identify and exploit security vulnerabilities in an isolated testing environment. The models identified on their own that AI startup Hugging Face might hold the solutions to the test it was tasked with completing, so it broke out of that isolated environment and hacked its way into Hugging Face. The startup said last week it had detected an intrusion into its data processing systems that it suspected was caused by an AI agent acting on its own. But the New York-based company said it wasn't until this week that it learnt OpenAI was responsible. It worked with the larger company to contain what Hugging Face CEO called an attack unlike anything we've seen before. The incident is stirring up debates over the need for stronger AI guardrails and the extent to which AI agents are capable of acting on their own. OpenAI said the biggest lesson from this incident is that security and safety needs should develop just as quickly as the models themselves. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
British media have reported that former Democratic Party chairman Wu Chi-wai was detained and initially refused entry upon arriving in the United Kingdom. It is understood that after being held for more than 10 hours, he was ultimately allowed to enter the country. Wu Chi-wai was one of the defendants in the national security case in connection with a 35-plus primary poll, in which activists were charged with conspiracy to commit subversion. After pleading guilty, he was sentenced to 4 years and 5 months in prison. The former Democratic Party chairman was released late last month and had recently shared updates about his life on social media. According to The Times, Wu was traveling to the UK with plans to relocate there. Upon arriving at London Heathrow Airport, he attempted to enter using a British National Overseas or BNO passport, but was detained by UK border authorities and initially denied entry. The report cites former Hong Kong Bar Association chairman Paul Harris, who says Wu's passport has been confiscated and he is expected to be deported to Hong Kong within 7 days. Other reports suggest Wu intended to seek political asylum in the UK. The reports say the UK Home Office is aware of the incident and describes it as an administrative or procedural matter. It is understood that after being detained for more than 10 hours, Wu was eventually cleared to enter the UK. The UK launched a BNO visa scheme in 2021, allowing eligible Hong Kong BNO passport holders and their dependents to apply for permanent residency after 5 years of residence, followed by British citizenship after a further year. A UK immigration consultant says applicants entering under the BNO visa scheme undergo background checks in advance, including checks on criminal records in Hong Kong, and are therefore rarely refused entry. However, travelers seeking entry using only a BNO passport rather than a pre-approved BNO visa are assessed by border officials on arrival. As Hong Kong faces a growing fracture tsunami driven by an aging population, the University of Hong Kong has partnered with community pharmacies to launch the city's first pharmacist-led osteoporosis screening program aiming to identify hidden high-risk patients before fractures occur. Luna Bai has more.
Osteoporosis is a common bone disease in Hong Kong that can lead to fractures and a higher risk of death for elderly people. But many people are not diagnosed until a fracture occurs because it rarely causes symptoms in early stages. To address the problem, HKU Med has partnered with 4 community pharmacists to launch the city's first screening program, using a self-developed questionnaire, COSA, to help identify hidden high-risk patients.
The COSA stands for Chinese Osteoporosis Screening Algorithm, which is a simple-to-use, easy-to-use questionnaire, including full questions, age, sex, weight, and history of fracture.
By using this, community pharmacists can assess an individual's risk of developing osteoporosis with an accuracy rate of between 74 and 94%. More than 1,000 high-risk individuals have been invited to take part. Around 60% agreed to be screened, and more than 100 people identified as being at very high risk have been referred to further assessment. Researchers hope the program will shift osteoporosis care from treatment to prevention, helping reduce avoidable fractures in Hong Kong.
We advise you when you have any question on your health and bone density, you can come visit your community pharmacy at your convenience. Thank you.
Luna Bai, TVB News.
The 27th Anti-Comment Games Hong Kong will open its doors to the public tomorrow. This year's event area has increased by 10% compared with last year. Some exhibitors are still putting the finishing touches on their booths at the Wan Chai Convention Center. After doubling the exhibition scale last year, the organizers have expanded the floor area by another 10% this year, making this the largest Anti-Comment Games ever. Spanning halls 1, 3, and 5FG, the venue can accommodate up to 38,000 visitors. This year's event brings together 201 corporate exhibitors and nearly 700 individual creators with 2 brand new zones. General admission tickets are priced at $50, a $5 increase from last year. On-site ticket counters will only sell tourist passes. And that's the news. Thank you for watching.